And a very good morning to you. Welcome along to our brand new adventure in broadcasting. Look at our shiny new set. This way as well. Hey. Owen's here as well. How are you doing?
Morning. How are things?
Very good. I'm a bit discombobulated.
I am. Everything seems opposite right now. It seems like I'm writing an essay with my right hand instead of my left.
I was about to say we can see your runners, but we just about can't see your runners.
Good thing I am barefooted this morning, so that's the main reason why I can't see them.
We've got a very busy show today. You've been talking to Damien Duff, who has some pretty interesting stuff to say. We'll play a clip of that in a minute. That full interview is coming up around about 8:10. We're also going to be talking about the skills of the game and the situation in Cork. Daniel Goulding was on yesterday talking to us about being two-footed and how important that is, but I guess far more importantly and more relevantly at the moment, Cork football is in a bit of a jock.
He was saying that, yeah, and as I was saying on yesterday's show, he is open to the idea of potentially getting involved himself, not confirming, not kind of calling out.
Come and get me, please, to County Board.
No, come and get me, please. He's got his first child is on the way this September, so it's a busy time in his own life. He's doing a PhD at the moment,
right?
So he's up the walls, so to speak. So you know, if
the perfect time to get involved in an inter-county football team.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, he is like everybody else, much like Paddy Kelly, much like you'd expect a couple of his former teammates to come out over the next couple of weeks and months. He is very unhappy with how things are going, that there is, as you said there, the basic skills being questioned. Is there enough going into the idea that every young footballer should be two-footed? As soon as you get into a county setup, that's what he felt when he got in there, that he felt that his right leg was for standing on when he went into the inter-county setup, and that changed. That's through good coaching. Cork have had good coaches. Cork have done things right in the past. Cork have done things right this decade. They've won an All-Ireland this decade. Yeah. That makes it all the more bizarre.
It's a bit late though when it's the inter-county setup who are doing that coaching as opposed to it being done at underage in the clubs. So maybe they can radicalise the movement and make sure that type of stuff is actually coming through the clubs. The difficulty is that teams at underage level tend to be built to win matches as opposed to improve the skills of the individuals, because every manager thinks he's the next insert name of famous manager from
Billy Morgan,
whatever generation you want. Jim McGuinness,
John Evans,
Mick O'Dwyer, Kevin Heffernan. We can go that far back. Or Sean Boylan. Right, let's talk a little bit about some of the... there's the list of exactly what's coming up today. We're going to hear from Damien Duff around about 8:10. We're going to talk that Goulding interview. Good stuff coming around 8:30. And then John Duggan is home to talk to us about his trio of hats and the experience of wandering around Russia like Don Quixote for 6 weeks, tilting at windmills. So that's all coming up a little bit later on. First though, we want to play some of the clips. Let's start with Damien Duff, because this is the biggest story that we've seen in Irish sport this summer. Whatever about the Newbridge or Nowhere thing, the whole notion of Páirc Uí Chaoimh not being open for Liam Miller's testimonial has really stuck in the craw of the Irish sports public. Damien Duff is the latest person to come out and lend his weight to the argument that the Páirc should be open for Liam Miller's testimonial. He was speaking with Owen yesterday. Have a look.
I think it's a disgrace. I think it's Gaelic people and whoever makes the decision saying rule books and they don't have their AGM till next February. It's a load of crap. It's archaic. You know, it's just dinosaurs making decisions. You know, a young man has passed away, left a young family behind, and all they're looking to do is play a game that will bring people together. Firstly, it'd be a lovely occasion and will help Liam Miller's family. So I just find it absolutely disgraceful that they can't open the gates of their stadium for one day. So I think, I don't know, I don't read media or whatever. I'd like to think that's what everyone's feelings is on it, but I find it a disgrace, and it's just same old dinosaurs in GAA making the same old decisions.
Are you surprised by what's happened?
I am. You know, you hear a lot about the GAA people. Yeah, I know they opened Croke Park for the senior internationals years back, but you know, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, it's just a game of football, and that's all I can call them, dinosaurs. So I don't know. They're hinting now that they might open their doors. I don't know. It's PR wise, I think it's been awful for GAA, and rightly so.
But the thing is, it could have been such an easy PR win for them as well had they made the U-turn straight away.
Yeah. Oh, listen, even if they open the doors now and the game is played there, I still think they come out of it looking awful. So it's a lose-lose for them now, and it serves them right. So it makes my blood boil, and I can only imagine how everyone on the committee feels about it as well. So absolute disgrace, but not really surprised.
Yeah, Damien Duff. Not engaged with the media, he says, but clearly doesn't need to be because he can sense the mood of the country.
Yeah, pretty much. He's in the south of France at the moment. In fact, he's on his holidays, and so to say that he's been kind of following it very closely isn't really true, but you can just sense the natural anger there, the sense that this is an injustice, that this is clearly a complete mess up by the GAA here, that this hasn't already been turned around. And it is interesting to hear him say that even if they do make that U-turn in the coming 24 hours, there is understood to be a meeting today, then it's too late. The damage has already been done. That maybe the goodwill element of it is already out of the picture. But you know what? I think maybe it's never too late.
No, it isn't. It isn't. And things change and people change. And the decision to open could be the type of openness that all of our sports need to move on together. Because ultimately, this is really, I mean, it's parking the Liam Miller issue for a minute. Ultimately, this is about, like, should public money go to individual sports for facilities that are going to be exclusively at the preserve of the members of that sport? Like, I don't think we should ever as a country again invest in single-use sports facilities. We should only spend taxpayers' money from this point forward on sports facilities that are going to be used by the entire community. And the notion that we would continue to invest in single-use sports facilities is bullshit. And it has been bullshit for decades, but we've persisted with this because that's the way we always did it. When actually, what we really need is a multi-facility approach, a multi-sport approach to all our facilities. And at that point, maybe we might even get to the position where you can use the Aviva for GAA matches and you can use Croke Park for the big rugby matches when they actually need them. And the money ends up being the right amount of money for everybody and everybody can progress. But like, that gets annoying, and that's... like on a local, on a town level, then that means that you can get all these clubs to come together, 5 or 6 different clubs, and build state-of-the-art facilities that are in use all day, every day, by schools, community groups and teams, and that are shared for male and female. Like, it's a really easy solution instead of sitting here going, well, I've got my castle, you can't have it.
Yeah, or if there is an alteration to the rules that say that, like, ultimately the alterations to the rule will have to come in Congress, but that rule needs to be changed.
No, I'm saying that the government says you're not getting any more money. No one's getting any more money. The FAI are getting no money, the IRFU are getting no money, the GAA are getting no more money from the public
there's just one sporting body.
No, that the individual sports can only apply for funding from the government if the facilities that they're going to use that money on are shared.
It's an interesting theory. It's a
really simple fix to most of the issues that we have. It's like, okay, you want the taxpayer to pay for this, share it with everybody else.
Yeah, the one thing, I don't know, this is very specific to the Liam Miller case, but the one thing that's kind of angered me a little bit is the idea that the GAA is supposed to be the centrepiece of a community, that it is supposed to be the thing that brings people together. And like, it's sad that an image of Liam Miller playing Gaelic games in Páirc Uí Chaoimh had to be shared. Like, that's almost irrelevant, but it hammers home the point that, you know, this is a contradiction in itself. But like, that didn't need to be part of the conversation. We didn't need to tell the world that Liam Miller used to play GAA as a kid, like a lot of people in Cork did. We didn't need to show the world that he played in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, as if to say to the GAA, well, listen, this is actually one of your own. It's not about being one of your own. It's not about being a GAA player. It's about helping out somebody in the community, a very, very good cause in the community. And when it comes to the practicalities of it all, it's an unused stadium on the occasion of the event. So that's the one thing that's annoyed me about this. But hopefully there will be a solution found to it. I think what Damien is saying there with it being too late, I think he means in a PR sense. But in terms of the actual practicality of the charity event, it's never too late.
No, and hopefully the right decision gets made. So are we doing basketball next, or are we doing Ryan Lochte? We're going to do basketball next, I think, yeah. So this footage came through from Basketball Ireland, and it is of 3 dunks from 3 Irish lads playing under-18 basketball for Ireland. There's one, and the best thing about this is there's 2, just caught the end of that one. It's 3 separate guys.
Class.
We were hammering Armenia in that game.
Well, you know, there's nothing more, there's nothing better than hammering Armenia in a good old-fashioned game of basketball. The last one is the best one here.
Because it's underneath and back up.
Oh, yeah. That's an impressive. And that guy looks like, I mean, he might have been
tall enough to be a...
Well, yeah. Well, I don't think he was even the tallest player in the team. Obviously, I think the first 2 guys are much taller than him. That guy actually looked relatively small. So, I mean, that was one hell of a leap. That was incredible. So,
shouldn't we be better at basketball?
course we should.
And isn't there an opportunity for us? Like, it's dark and cold and miserable well, I mean, now it's going to be dark and cold and miserable from October to April and May with the way climate change seems to be affecting Ireland.
Yeah.
So we should be indoors all the time playing these sports.
Of course we should. Like, I would like to know, nationally, are we a small nation, for example? Are we not
seem to be.
Are we not producing enough 7-footers who are actually good at skills? Because
you mean on average height? Sorry, I thought you meant the number of people who live in the country.
Average height, sorry, yeah. I was like, no, I can tell how small we are as a nation, but in terms of average height, I don't know. Because that's the most impressive thing about NBA players, is that they're 7 feet tall and they're able to shoot a three-pointer. It's like, how do you have that capability in your body to not be lanky, so to speak, and useless?
Well, most of the tall Irish people would be like relatively small in NBA terms.
So that's the thing. I mean, that's what I'm questioning. Height-wise, are we just not able to mix it with the superior genetics of Eastern Europe and the United States, who of course just have strength in numbers? I don't know, but sure, skills-wise and the amount of time spent in the hardwood should mean that we're better at basketball for sure.
Yeah, we could be clever.
Exactly, clever, shrewd, a good tactical analysis. Maybe bring Jim McGuinness into the Ireland basketball setup. He can come up with a new strategy.
And then the last thing we're going to show you is Ryan Lochte, who, after Samir Nasri, now goes down as, I would say, one of the only 2 people who have self-incriminated by a picture on the internet of them actually doing the thing that they're going to get banned for in anti-doping terms.
Probably. I certainly can't think of anybody else. I mean, it's a brave new age when it comes to social media, that people are actually kind of handing in their cleanliness death warrant, so to speak. And God, he was in big trouble as soon as he did that.
He got an IV for. He says it's a vitamin thing. I mean, do you get vitamins by IV anyway?
Well, he does make the very valid point in his press conference that, why would I post a picture on Instagram if I knew the substance was illegal? So, well, call me a sucker, but I am buying the fact that it wasn't an illegal substance.
Just Google Ryan Lochte interviews and you can see that Ryan Lochte is the very type of person who would accidentally post a picture of him with something that wasn't particularly clever. So that's him there. This is from May, Digger spotting this a mile away. Well ahead of the game. Could be in trouble. IV recovery. It's exactly what Samir Nasri was doing, right? It was exactly the same thing?
Yeah, the Samir Nasri thing obviously had a very different element to the whole story, of course, with regards to the clinic.
So here's Lochte's post. Athletic recovery with some hashtag IV drip. At Revival Lounge, hashtag vitamins.
Hashtag IV drip. I saw somebody commenting on Deadspin. Vitamin D. I saw someone commenting on Deadspin article on this, saying that he's so dense, I'm surprised he doesn't just sink whenever he gets into the pool, that he's actually able to swim, which is a great line. He's a remarkable person to actually listen to. I'm not sure we can actually bring some of the press conference video, but we may as well bring that to you now, because this is actually entertainment in itself.
I posted a picture on my Instagram account of me and Kayla, and Kayla and I doing the vitamins infusion. I received an inquiry from USADA, which is the United States Anti-Doping Agency, about what was in the IV. I fully cooperated with their request. What I did not know was that even though I wasn't taking anything that was banned substances from WADA, which is a World Anti-Doping Agency, and there was nothing that I was taking that was prohibited on the list. Although in WADA's rules that you can't take more than 100 milliliters of anything in an IV infusion. I was not aware of that. And what I was taking was over 100 milliliters.
The bit where he reads the stuff in brackets, which is a World Anti-Doping Agency, is... the whole point of anti-doping is that ignorance is not supposed to be a defence, but I would make a special Ryan Lochte clause where the Ryan Lochte defence is that he's too ignorant to actually understand. He can't read this stuff. Like, you know, he definitely needs somebody to help him along the way here.
The travails of Ryan Lochte, I cannot wait to read his autobiography. If he doesn't have one yet, he needs to put pen to paper immediately. Just
It'll be written out in crayon. What are you talking about?
Get to the inner workings of this guy's mind. Like after Rio and the 10-month suspension for, you know, faking certain elements of the hostage situation, and now this, his career is amazing. It's an absolute
It is amazing.
Full house of like he just completely represents the bro culture of the United States that sometimes exists. Like he was 100% the high school jock who walked around, and then at the end of, you know, the Disney movie, he sort of becomes friends with the nerd in class who helps him to do his homework or something like that. That is what Ryan Lochte represents.
Who gets his revenge by giving him an IV and saying, "Here, let's do a little snap for Instagram. That's going to look great, Ryan." There was somebody in the background of all that.
He's hoping to be back for Tokyo 2020, and I sure hope for the good of sport he is back, because we need more Ryan Lochte in front of a microphone for all of our enjoyment.
There was on the Deadspin, was it Deadspin? Whatever, it was BuzzFeed. So BuzzFeed, check out BuzzFeed. Ryan Lochte is not very good at interviews. There was a question about whether or not he would like to be a reality TV star or whatever the other aspect. I can't remember what it was. Like not a brain surgeon, but he's like, oh, whatever. Definitely not a reality TV star, but Ryan Lochte needs to be a reality TV star, because people will tune in to see just how it is he manages to get dressed in the morning, how he manages to use the bathroom properly, how he manages to cook dinner and not kill himself. I think that he has a future as a reality TV star. Yeah,
me and Kayla and I was my favourite line from that. Just like the third part. He sees himself twice.
Time for the papers.
OTBAM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
Going to start this morning with the Irish Independent sports section. They should hang their heads in shame. That's the story that we have about Damien Duff. Duffer slams GAA's effing dinosaurs over approach to Miller fundraiser. AsIam.ie is the autism charity that he's raising funds for with the Keepy Uppy challenge. McStay facing potential 3-month ban for clash with linesmen. There's been an outpouring of support for Kevin McStay in the aftermath of what he did, and it's understandable, but it is in stark relief to what happened to Diarmuid Connolly. And so I keep bringing up the Connolly thing because there's complete double standards when Diarmuid Connolly does something and when anybody else does stuff. And I'm just interested in why that happens to be the case. It's not right, and it doesn't make any sense. And ultimately, it's really self-defeating. We've ended up without having Diarmuid Connolly playing football because... so I watched the news report again this morning of... the Connolly incident against Carlo, and there's a push on the linesman and he wags his finger in his face and then he walks on, and in real time it's like push, walk on, push, it's like that. But when you slow it down, it's like the Zapruder film, slow-mo. Oh, there's still, he had him like for ages, but actually it's a split second, and an entire GAA career, that's like the sliding doors moment right there for Connolly. And with this, it's like, look, there's a madness. He's a good guy. And I understand all that, but like, why did the Connolly witch hunt happen the way it happened?
Yeah, it's a very good point. It's a complete double standard. Like, I know this isn't completely relevant to how the GAA will make decisions, but ultimately, who keeps their hand on the official for longer? Is it Kevin McStay or is it Diarmuid Connolly? Who actually is more intimidating towards the official, Kevin McStay or Diarmuid Connolly? And it's McStay in both situations. There's no question about that. But McStay is viewed as a nicer character within GAA circles, and therefore, this isn't even a witch hunt. This is a support campaign for Kevin McStay. This has been a monumental shifting of the goalposts to talk about poor officiating in the GAA, which is a problem in itself. But this is not the conversation that was happening around Diarmuid Connolly. We were not having the conversation around Diarmuid Connolly saying, well, that sideline official was very arrogant. Officials in the GAA need to up their game now and get their head out of their hole and, you know, start listening to managers and listening to players. Nobody was having that conversation around Diarmuid Connolly.
And if you look
now
back,
seem to be having this conversation now.
If you look back, there are 3 Carlo lads who have Connolly. Like 3 of them are like swarming around him while he's off the field of play. So like, whereas McStay, there's been 2 decisions that have gone against him. Fair enough. Decisions go against you, and it's up to you to respond whatever way you want to choose. But like, Connolly is physically being manhandled, and I think this is actually, players are responding to that. Daniel Flynn responded to it, and we're going to see it again. Like, Clifford got booked the other day, right? After one of the Monaghan players basically had him in a chokehold.
Yeah.
And then he grabs your man's jersey back, like, to get out of it. Why would Clifford be instigating crap against a Monaghan cornerback? They both get the same booking. It's the same outcome, even though one of these two players instigates what happens. Like, it's madness.
Yeah, there is.
And so, of course, the players are going to get pissed off.
There's a huge wind-up culture in the GAA. Like, that is another conversation. It's not just being wound up from an official's point of view, which McStay clearly was in his defence. But there's a huge wind-up culture going on from opposition players. It's not about being cynical or holding back the jersey or tripping them up or kind of giving them a small little dig behind the referee's back. There is a psychological element to all of this where it's like, if you do this enough times, you're going to poke the bear, he's going to lash out, you go down, and that guy's off at the very best circumstance. That's probably what they were trying to do to David Clifford. That's what they did to Daniel Flynn. It's what those Carlow players were probably trying to do to Diarmuid Connolly.
I think
it's
they
open
said
season.
It's
just an acceptance, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And we got to call bullshit on that, because otherwise it's going to go too far. GAA to meet over hosting Miller match. This is the Times Ireland edition. So looks like a meeting will actually happen. United will only sell Martial to foreign club. This is like, Anthony Martial, we think you might be quite good. We just don't know how to use you properly, and we definitely don't want you coming back to haunt us. So you can join somebody outside of England.
Somebody outside of the Champions League would be perfect. Go to little old Arsenal there, Anthony Martial, is what I say. Go and join that like minnow of a club in the Premier League, and you'll definitely won't come back to haunt Manchester United. That's what I suggest they do. Just stay away from the Champions League clubs.
Dave Albert was working with Francesco Molinari. I didn't know that. He's
that's where the upturn in psychological prowess, is it?
There you go. But that's all bullshit, apparently. All psychology is bullshit, because if you don't understand it, you think it's weird and anachronistic and it can't work. But, he just won the British Open. So the Tour de France, obviously, is also making a lot of the newspapers. Dave Brailsford had pretty interesting comments yesterday about how French culture is just not good at understanding winners. What was exactly his point?
Well, he was actually have the quotes here. He was saying that it's interesting. We raced in Italy and Chris's case was open when we were at the Tour of Italy, and the Italians were fantastic, to be fair to them. The Spanish, fantastic. It just seems to be a French thing. It's like a French cultural thing, really, isn't it? That's it. I'm not sure that they would have liked their football players spat at in Russia. I'm sure that there would have been a word or two about that. But it's okay to spit on us and our staff. So Dave Brailsford making the point here that the reason French fans hate Team Sky is because they're not French. And are Team Sky the only non-French team in the Tour de France? No, they're not. So it's a weird coincidence that they hate all non-French teams, but all their vitriol has landed in the face of Team Sky and their riders. Just pure coincidence. I can't imagine why. It's despicable that they would hate all non-French people.
The Racing Post this morning is Kavanagh hails groundbreaking lifetime bans for horses who have doped. This is a quantum leap forward for anti-doping. A new anti-doping policy that will trigger lifetime bans for horses who test positive for substances such as anabolic steroids has been hailed as groundbreaking and unprecedented by HRI Chief Executive Brian Kavanagh. On to the Irish Times sports section this morning. Jim McGuinness is the lead here. Rivals must play the patience game better if they want to beat the Dubs. And just an interesting point from the photograph here. So this is Healy Park in Omagh, and this is the last minute free that Ronan O'Neill misses. Not last minute, but late free that would have made it a single point game against Dublin. I just wanted to point out here, Palestinian flag, Palestinian flag. It seems that in the 6 counties, the Palestinian flags are being let in / actively encouraged in GAA matches, because you remember when Fermanagh won, there was a pitch invasion. There was loads of Palestinian flags on the field that day. It's just in Navan that you get arrested if you
in their own little jurisdiction.
If you show up with yeah, I don't know. I wonder. I haven't seen any in Croker. I haven't seen any at any of the other games.
I have seen them in Croker. Yeah.
Okay,
and to be fair, it is the Dublin fans that are doing that. So, like, I'm kind of like fair play to them. Bring them up to Omagh, the Dublin fans showing some political activism, which is great. It's obviously the Tyrone fans as well. They were united in Healy Park on Saturday with their Palestinian flags, and very noticeable. I think it's just the sheer size of Omagh as well, where the Dublin fans were kind of a bit more compressed, whereas in the Hill you might have one scattered around near the Nally and all that.
Okay. You read this piece?
Which one?
Jim
McGuinness, sorry, yeah. The piece you're literally just talking about. So there's a couple of interesting things in it. One of the elements is Jim McGuinness comes up with a solution to beating this current iteration of Dublin. And he says, keep 10 men behind the ball. and then use your remaining 4 or 5 players to chase the Dublin man in possession, to get around what he refers to the no man's land, which is between the 45 and 65 metre line. And obviously, when the Dubs are passing the ball around, it can be very, very frustrating. But the problem is, it's so slow that the opposition starts to think to themselves, well, right, we need to get everybody behind the ball. And they're set, they feel like they're in a sturdy position. And what happens then, there's one incisive move and you're finished. What actually happens is he feels 10 men is enough to hold that sturdy position, and the other 4 or 5 just go after and chase the ball, and you can rotate those personnel to save fitness throughout the match. He does also make the point that this Dublin team is nowhere near as gung-ho as 2013, and he's right. And I was wondering, actually, just watching that game on Saturday, like, what do the players think of that when they're hand-passing the ball around? Now, it's very effective, and I'd say fair play to them, because, you know, it's up to other teams to come after them when you're in a winning position. But what would Diarmuid Connolly think of that if he was playing in that team? Would he be content to kind of slot in and just use the fist and not be, I'm not going to say not be allowed to kick past the ball, but certainly get far less opportunities to kick past the ball? Because obviously the potential that he's got in his feet is unbelievable. He was arguably the best kick passer of the ball in the championship when he was here. And I do wonder...
Didn't he shoot from a sideline with like a minute into stoppage time of 3 or 4 minutes, and
when they were up by like 1 point or something?
Yeah, and Cillian O'Connor missed the free to equalise.
Yeah, I was like, fair play to you, Diarmuid.
Yeah, I know, it was like all guts, no glory. It was exactly what you want in Gaelic football.
It was just like Japan did to Belgium in the World Cup, and then they conceded and got knocked out of the World Cup. But sometimes that reaps reward. So yeah, it's an interesting one if you're up against Dublin at any point soon. Play 10 men behind the ball and use your other 4 or 5 players to actually chase down the man.
Great piece from Mike Quirk on Tuesday, as it is every Tuesday in the Examiner. He's just saying that Kerry need to make a few more changes still if they're going to actually beat Kildare and go ahead and make it through to the All-Ireland semi-finals. Cork need to be at the top table every time an All-Ireland is given out. The Myler mantra. An interview with John Myler ahead of their game this weekend. 120,000 people expected at Croker over the course of the 2 All-Ireland hurling semi-finals this weekend.
Yeah, also I think just looking at Cork hurling, I know it's kind of a bit of a tangent, but I think Pat Ryan is going to be announced as Waterford boss in the coming days to succeed Derek McGrath. He would have worked under Kieran Kingston at Cork over the last couple of years, so it's a bit of a left field selection, but somebody who's seen a county kind of come from the doldrums and actually succeed, as Cork obviously did last summer, and now John Myler is continuing on that fantastic work. And like, there doesn't seem to be a whole pile of fanfare around the hurling semi-finals just yet because of the football dominance over the last 2 weeks. That's going to change over the next couple of days, and they're expecting 70,000 for that game on Saturday, so that is a huge turnout. And it's just, I guess, the sheer population of Cork and Limerick, you know, and the rarity of Limerick being in real contention to win an All-Ireland title.
Yeah, hopefully everybody shows up for that. News too that Shane Lowry is putting his brother Alan on his bag for the next 4 weeks, and the Indo have it that the Mayo County Board Chairman believes that Stephen Rocford will be continuing on. There's no guarantee, but there's rumours coming out that Rocford's going to replace his backroom team. County Board Chairman is speculating on that speculation, suggesting that would suggest that Rocford is planning for next year, but he hasn't heard officially. But he did see him at the under-20 semi-final, and so sure, like, obviously he's going to be the Mayo manager next year if he showed up to that game. So
well, yeah, he said
pick up the phone and ring him.
He said he was at the under-20s game, and he said there might be more than one reason for the fact that he was at the under-20s game, or maybe not. Maybe he's just a Mayo man who was following his team in an All-Ireland semi-final.
And one last one for you from me. The Irish News is news on the Down football job. Plenty of interest in the Down job, says Rooney. They're in no rush, obviously, to appoint anybody. Suggestions that Stephen Poacher might be in the running for that. Conor Deegan, obviously, as well. And McCarran's season may be at an end. That's Colin McCarran, out from the Dublin game, and may now well be out for the rest of the season as well. Let's move on to the tabloids.
Yeah, let's look at the back page of the Herald this morning. It is O'Leary dubs fear. Legend urges Sky Blues to finish off teams and stop fluting around, he says. And you've also got Duff slams rubbish call by GAA.
I wish there was like some kind of camera on the old GAA legends whenever Dublin start passing the ball back. If you could just kind of cut to a green room where like you have legends of the 60s, 70s and 80s and maybe just into the start of the 90s, and just see the exasperation as Dublin passed the ball back and forth like Barcelona, the tiki-taka.
Yeah, well,
just to imagine how angry they were. Like, stop floating around!
Leave it in long. But sure, Leave It In Long has got a long lease of life now as well, or a new lease of life, really. You know, like, do you actually dislike what they're doing, or is there kind of an element of saying, you you know what, I admire their ballsiness because of things like this, because of people, the ultimate criticism that is going to come for that.
Sure, Monaghan tried to do exactly the same thing and they couldn't do it. So like, it's not like this is
simple.
Exactly. It's like a very difficult skill executed at an unbelievably high level by one of the greatest teams of all time, and you're like, nah, this is not good for me.
Yeah, you also need an incredibly high level of fitness to actually be able to execute that. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like, if they're chasing a game, obviously they're not going to do it, but they're dominant in so many games. Jim Gavin has literally looked at games and is like, we've trailed in like 2 games at half-time ever, so we need a second half plan to actually kind of counteract this idea that, you know, we need to constantly be gung-ho and actually win these games. So it's up to everybody else to chase them, is my stance on this, despite the fact that like it's not particularly enjoying on a personal level, but I don't care. It's like, you do what you got to do to win. If it was my county doing it, I'd be like, fair play to you.
And Tyrone went for it.
Yeah.
The most bizarre thing I thought in the aftermath of that game was Mickey Hart saying, well, you're not going to defend a 5 or 6 point deficit. It's like, well, maybe if you played like that from the start, lads.
Yeah.
Like, the game has changed to the point where going for it gets rewarded.
Yeah. Without question, yeah, for sure. On the back page of the Irish Daily Star, it's big news for Aston Villa. Villain Park, handball Henry to lead Premier League drive. You can't refer to Thierry Henry without referring to the handball jar, is what it says. Just before we come back to that, just to mention some of the other stories here. Kariusai's red exit after another error, so he's made another error, it seems, in pre-season. I was against Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, it wasn't even that bad.
Sunday. Ozil's row in Germany hots up. Things are getting very nasty now in the row between Mesut Ozil and the DFB. Ozil, of course, is retired from international football at the age of 29. Rivals won't get Martial and McStay's in hot water, completing the back page here. Plenty of stories here on the back page, but Villain Park is the big one. Thierry Henry going into Aston Villa. New owners there. Steve Bruce is still the manager.
I didn't even know the story about the new owners. It happened.
Yeah, one of them is like a co-owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. So maybe he kind of looks across the Atlantic and is like, look at that trendy young Frenchman. Let's get him into our trendy young club. And without the realisation that there isn't a whole pile of pedigree when it comes to Thierry Henry here. Like, I mean, let's not forget the criticism that was surrounding Thierry Henry before the World Cup. Now, of course, Belgium had a very good World Cup, so maybe it's changed. But how much of that was down to Thierry Henry? Like Christophe Terreur saying that he's the first one to, or the last one to arrive at training and the first one to leave. Maybe he's just highly productive.
Yeah, I know. I mean, maybe he's going to change the culture, like short, sharp, intense training, and everybody ends up being as good a footballer as Thierry Henry. Happy days.
Maybe.
What could possibly go wrong here?
I'd love to be wrong on this, but I can't see Thierry Henry becoming one of the greatest managers.
But at least he decided to give up the really cushy, unbelievably lucrative gig at Sky to take this risk. I think he deserves a little bit of credit for that, right?
Sure. No, he does. Like, he's really thrown that one away. But obviously this isn't confirmed just yet. It does seem to be an exclusive from the Star. Like, what are you thinking if you're Steve Bruce and you wake up this morning and you're like,
I still have a job here. What's going on? I mean, maybe Steve Bruce could be his assistant.
Wow. That would be, or Henry could be his assistant. I mean, that would be one hell of a dynamic.
Not going to happen.
It's all Thierry. Today's work involves, listen, Steve, I'm going to do what I want to do. And also, it would be a situation where an assistant would get paid more than the actual manager, you would imagine. So yeah, it's interesting times at Villa Park for sure. The Mesut Ozil story is really dominating some of the back pages. Mes shit Ozil, says the Sun here, and £70 million. Like, the Ozil
is Meshit, is that like, is it a German translation?
Well, no, Uli Hoeneß said he was
Scheisse?
Well, maybe, yeah.
Is it?
No, Uli Hoeneß had said he was shit for years, so they tried to get that in as a pun, which is kind of, this situation is getting like a situation of bullying, but it's all taking place on a very, very public international level, where it's like a notable German person piles in on Mesut Ozil. In the next day's news cycle, mostly in somewhere like Bild, another German legend will pile in on Mesut Ozil, and like, you've got to feel sorry for the guy. Like, it's a really horrible situation he's been put into. Like, there's been calls for the DFB chief to step down and all that sort of stuff, because, you know, it's almost like, when you look at the political scenario that's involved here and some of the politicians that have piled in, it's like open season for the far right in Germany right now, and they're just absolutely rubbing their hands at the potential of a scapegoat in the guise of somebody with Turkish heritage.
Yeah.
So it's not a pleasant story. It's gonna rumble on, you'd imagine. I wouldn't be surprised to see Germans actually waking up to what's going on here, and that Ozil actually comes back in a couple of years if they just clear out some of the top brass. But I don't know. Like, every chance he goes and has the season of his life now.
I don't know. He hasn't been particularly effective, I don't think, over the last couple of years. Like, When was Ozil at his best? Was it that World Cup that they won? Was he genuinely effective in that World Cup?
2010, he was probably at his best. You know, that's the one that gets him signed for Real Madrid.
It's a long time ago now, isn't it?
It is a long time ago. There's no question about that. Like he is, yeah. Like you can't blame all of this on Ozil's poor performances. And like Honus was saying that when Bayern faced Arsenal, they were just actually targeting Ozil as their weak link, as a man you could bypass quite easily, you could push around quite easily. So maybe it is like you obviously can't blame it all on that, but it has had an effect for sure. And I think the whole idea of racism that he's kind of thrown up here is legit. It is the real reason why he has walked away from the squad.
Yeah.
It's on the back page here. It's the lead as well on the back page of the Mirror. Ozil's been rubbish for years. That's Honus' quote as well. He hits back at Arsenal star on racism row that has caused uproar in German football.
The thing is that it's possibly true that you can watch the German football team over the last number of years and think, well, he's been rubbish. And it's also possibly true that he is the victim of racism in this circumstance. It's like, but Honus piling in now is actually reaffirming the whole notion that there's a motivation behind this, which isn't just about football. Because did Willie Honus say this in advance of the World Cup? Has he been saying it for years?
But
or is he just opportunistically now jumping on this to pile in?
Yeah, part of me does agree. It's like the reason why he's been rubbish has been himself. The reason why he's been the most rubbish, maybe because of race. The back page of The Guardian then is winning something. It is just the next step. Jurgen Klopp and my expectations are greater for Liverpool now. And you've also got Team Sky here, Sean Ingle and Carcassonne saying, we get on for now anyway. Thomas insists Team Sky tour rivals are chasing the same goal. And on the front page of the Daily Telegraph sports section, it's Froome's promise. I'm ready to help teammate Thomas a title, says Sky star. They leave out the phrase true gritted teeth there. But I'm sure he was delighted, when he was quizzed about that, to say, I'm a good old mate, Geraint, I'll help him through thick and through thin.
It's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens over the next couple of days. Like, this is one of these, they happen rare enough, really. Like, but when they do happen, they tend to be unbelievably famous and iconic moments where teammate A and teammate B are actually going for it. I don't know if you've seen Slaying the Badger, the 30 for 30 about Bernard Eno and Greg LeMond. They're on the same team, and Eno basically promises LeMond, you help me this year and I'll let you win next year. And Eno then just completely blanks the promise that he made to LeMond. LeMond's, what, you promised you're gonna... And so they end up having to go at each other.
Stephen Roach involved in a fairly similar situation?
Roberto Vicentini in the Giro d'Italia in 1987. So he's not the team leader of the Italian team in the Italian race, but finds himself in the race leader's pink jersey and gets all sorts of abuse from the Italian crowd. So like, Italian crowds are very nasty towards people in the right circumstances. Certainly they were back in the 1980s. And he just balls it out and says, screw you, Italy. I'm going to win your race. I'm going to take your pink jersey and I'm going to crush Roberto Vicentini, who wasn't really heard of after that. Or I don't think, competed at that level again.
Yeah, okay.
Now, hang on, well, no, I don't think so.
He didn't like win a Triple Crown or anything after, is what you're going to now discover.
Well, maybe he competed in the Giro again after that. But anyway, they're brilliant because the rawness between two teammates who are well matched and have access to the same facilities means that it's a relatively level playing field. The
same instructions, they know exactly,
they can hear the race radio from each other.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think...
And I suppose you can probably key the leader and go, okay, go now, Chris, this is your moment.
I don't think Froome is winning this thing. Like, he would have to do something extraordinarily different to Geraint Thomas. And how can two teammates diverge in such a manner, particularly post-Alps?
Yeah.
It will have to take some sort of extraordinary ride from a competitor who's not wearing Sky Ocean Rescue on their singlet to actually win this thing. But that's not going to happen either. It's Geraint Thomas's to lose, big time.
All right, so you were speaking with Damien Duff yesterday?
I was.
Yeah, it's all part of the Keepy Uppy Challenge. Damien Duff is calling on members of the public to keep a ball in the air for as long as possible. This is the autism charity As I Am. Check out asiam.ie for the details. And you can also use the hashtag Keepy Uppy Challenge. They want you to share the video on social media, basically try and get people behind this campaign. To donate €4 to As I Am, you can text the word football to 50300. That's 5300 50300. Just text the word football and that will donate €4 to As I Am, the autism charity, and they want you to do the Keepy Uppy Challenge and use the hashtag Keepy Uppy Challenge.
All right, I'm delighted to say that Damien Duff now joins us on the show. A very good morning to you, Damien. How are things?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, all good. Just away my holidays, getting burnt and getting fat. So that's about it, really.
Down in the south of France, I understand.
Down the south of France, and nice atmosphere down here after winning the World Cup. So yeah, all's good.
So it's, I presume it's just a country that's been taken over with jubilation over the past couple of weeks. Of course, like South of France would often be known as rugby country, but I presume it's a fully football country, or so it has been for the last few weeks.
Yeah, especially on final day. It's a quiet little town where I have, but bloody hell, it was mental on the day of the final. So yeah, it's well and truly took over, and I think it's got football back in people's hearts over here, because the last 6-8 years, I think people fell out of love with the team and the players and what like. So winning the World Cup has done it the world of good. Yeah,
absolutely. We're chatting to you today because you're promoting the Keepy Uppy Challenge. It's a native of the Irish autism charity, As I Am. And I guess the whole aim around this is to increase awareness around autism, Damien.
Yeah, it's obviously through Adam Harris. Adam Harris is the CEO, and he's my wife's cousin. So he's a great guy, and he just asked me to help with the Keepy Uppy Challenge. And I'm not one for social media or anything like that, so I don't know how well it's doing, or I hope it's taken off anyway. But yeah, just, I guess, raising awareness. They're obviously involved. They're the sponsor of the Chelsea-Arsenal game next week, and just maybe helping people be more understanding about autism in Ireland.
Yeah. The Keepy Uppy Challenge, what is it? It's people sharing videos of doing as many Keepy Uppies as they can?
Literally, yeah. Whether you're good, bad, indifferent, you've never picked up a ball in your life, it's just record a video. You could do one kick up, you can do crazy, funny stuff, or listen, some people could do it literally all day. The young boy who launched it with me, Maliki, I think he does a bit of busking down on Grafton Street, making a lot of money, and it could even be tricks. Watching him the other day was some of the stuff he was doing outrageous. I think As I Am, I posted a video of him. So no, it's interesting, and obviously with World Cup fever, I might get people out there posting some videos.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to get your take quickly before we chat something else about the Liam Miller testimonial, obviously, just on the topic of charity there. I mean, it's something that's garnered a lot of the conversation over the past couple of days. It's a strange one that clearly the right thing to do would be to open the Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and the rule book is being handed out as a reason why this can't be done. What's your take on the whole situation at the moment with that?
I think it's a disgrace. I think it's Gaelic people and whoever makes the decision saying rule books and they don't have their AGM till next February. It's a load of crap. It's archaic. It's just dinosaurs making decisions. A young man has passed away, left a young family behind, and all they're looking to do is play a game that will bring people together. Firstly, it'll be a lovely occasion, and will help Liam Miller's family. So I just find it absolutely disgraceful that they can't open the gates of their stadium for one day. So I don't know, I don't read media or whatever. I'd like to think that's what everyone's feelings is on it, but I find it a disgrace, and it's just same old dinosaurs in GAA making the same old decisions.
Are you surprised by what's happened?
I am, my aunt. You hear a lot about the GAA people. Yeah, I know they opened Croke Park for the senior internationals years back, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, it's just a game of football, and that's all I can call them, dinosaurs. So I don't know, they're hinting now that they might open their doors. I don't know, it's PR wise, I think it's been awful for GAA, and rightly so.
But the thing is, it could have been such an easy PR win for them as well had they made the U-turn straight away.
Yeah. Oh, listen, even if they open the doors now and the game is played there, I still think they come out of it looking awful. So it's a lose-lose for them now, and it serves them right. So it makes my blood boil, and I can only imagine how everyone on the committee feels about it as well. So absolute disgrace, but not really surprised.
Well, hopefully we will have a U-turn at some point over the next couple of days. I just wanted to chat to you a little bit about the World Cup, Damien. Obviously, you were well immersed in it with RTE for the duration of it. And I guess the one feeling from an Irish perspective is when we watch this is we're always thinking, how would Ireland have got on? And we saw the easy side of the draw emerge quite significantly throughout the tournament. And you do wonder what level Ireland would have been at. Would they have been able to handle the level of the likes of Denmark and Sweden over the past couple of weeks?
Who knows? We obviously don't have the quality of the bigger nations. Sweden, like you can say they don't really have one standout player. I think if you're going to go, what was it, Sebastian Larsson? He's had a good career in England, but you know, he's no world beater. And yeah, they get to the quarterfinals, albeit swatted aside by England. So it just shows you if you've a good team spirit, camaraderie, and you're organised, you can go a long way. And you know, to say how we would have done, listen, who knows? I think that's our level. When you saw what Denmark did to us, and the best team went through, and you know, we weren't good enough to go to the World Cup. Full stop.
Yeah, the obvious comparison has been made with Croatia as well, just given sheer population numbers. Do you think that's a fair comparison, a fair objective for us to be aiming towards?
Yeah, why not? Like, you go, a lot of people always reference populations. Uruguay, I think, is 3.5-4 million as well. You learn all these, you know, you start making these comparisons when you're working on the panel in RT for the World Cup, and it is, you know, I don't know what you start looking at. Is it grassroots, coaching, you know, but definitely if you go off population-wise, how can Uruguay and Croatia produce these players, you know, year in, year out, world stars, whereas it's just a struggle for us. So I think it definitely has to be referenced, and it definitely has to be looked at what Croatia and Uruguay are doing at underage level. Yeah,
what do you think the difference is there?
I don't know. Listen, I haven't done enough homework, I'd say, on, you know, Croatian underage football and Uruguay as well. You know, the young boys in Uruguay, I don't know, do they have that hunger, that fight, just to, you know, they do it just to be obsessed with having a career. Whether do we have it here? I don't know. You know, I don't think we're producing players like we used to, and I don't want, you know, I'm not talking about myself right there. You talk about your Keanes, your Bradys, your Giles, and I don't think we're doing that anymore. So why? I don't know. I'm not pointing finger at coaches or anything. I just don't think enough hours are spent really playing football anymore, which is just society now, and it's a different generation.
And that's just recreationally. You don't mean in terms of other sports being in too big competition with football?
I don't know. Well, Gaelic and rugby was always there. Obviously, you know, there'll be a push now with inspiring people with the rugby team doing so well. But, you know, that's all I did was, you know, play football. I lived on the street. And, you know, that's, people are probably saying, oh, Duffer, you know, feck off. Here we go again, talking about it. But, you know, I didn't get coached when I was a kid. I just spent my whole childhood on the street. And you don't see that anymore. There's so many distractions, phones, PlayStations, etc., whereas myself and my age group, I guess, Robbie, Richie, Shay, we didn't have any of that crap. We're probably lucky because they are addictive things, phones, PlayStation, so maybe if I did have them, I wouldn't have spent half the time on the street. And, you know, the coaching you get now, that's just the icing on the cake. Foundations for any player is built on the street. You open any, you know, world stars autobiography, football player, the opening chapter is they spent their whole childhood on the street playing football, so it's not rocket science, and that's what I'm always trying to relate to my players, but I don't think people grasp it.
Yeah, it's very true. How are you finding the coaching at the moment? How do you feel you're developing as a coach?
I'd like to think I'm getting better. If you love something and you're obsessed with something and you put hours into something, I think it's only natural that you get better. So I'd like to think I'm doing that, but it's not really for me to say. But yeah, I love it. I've become addicted to it, I guess. I just tried it just to keep busy after I retired, and also to see if I did like it, and I've ended up loving it. So, yeah, it's keeping me out of trouble, I'd like to think.
What is the biggest advantage, like, I guess, when you compare actually working with kids to working with senior teams? Because I guess when you're coaching underage teams, you get to have a direct influence on kind of a very important thing in the development of a young person's life, where it's not all about winning matches. It's a very important part of their development as human beings.
Well, it is all about winning matches for me at that age of 15s. But yeah, I like to develop them on and off the pitch. If they're not going to be a good footballer and they're going to struggle with that, well, I'd like to think I've impacted maybe their life off the pitch in some way, just the manners, responsibility, standards, just as little as cleaning up after themselves, wearing the right kit, just being on time, stuff like that. So I just love the innocence of 15-year-olds. You know, if there is any hint of an ego, I can nip that in the bud. If I can't nip in the bud, they can just leave the club. Whereas maybe at senior level, the ego is there, it's well ingrained, and you ain't changing that habit. So I love it, and I can't see myself going with first team players anytime soon, because I said 15-year-olds they're like sponges, and I've loved working with them.
That's very interesting on the ego point. Like, how do you control an ego like that in a young person? Is it conversations with them, or how do you do it?
I'd be very tough, I guess, but conversations, yeah. To be fair, I'm lucky. I like to meet players before I sign them anyway. So if there's any hints, I won't sign them. But listen, if you have an ego of 15, you'd be worried about their career. And listen, I've seen plenty already. And when I was involved with the Irish under-15s, like, you can see hints and smell of them. Young lads smelling themselves already. Like, it's not possible. So, it is possible because I saw it. So I just can never fathom it. I'd like to think I'm still the same 16-year-old that left for England 25 years ago. Whereas now you see some lads bowling around like they've had one hell of a career. So it's hard to fathom, but I just like to nip it in the bud and just be firm with them. Try to nip it in the bud. Yeah.
Like, on an individual day-to-day basis, when you're training them with an under-15 team, is it more kind of based on the individual skills at that point, or are the kids you're working with already extremely kind of capable in that area, and it is more like managing a senior team where it is tactics, it is fluency, it is kind of getting the team in a compact matter and setting them up well?
A bit of both, to be fair. I still think we're playing catch-up as a country technically, so I'm all about the ball for all our sessions. We train 5 times a week for 2 hours each session, and every session is just ball. So, yeah, we touch on tactics and the way we're going to set up, but that's literally just 1% of what we do. I'm just all about, the ball being more or less an extension of your body and just being so comfortable with it that you'll take it anywhere in the pitch, which, again, I don't think we see at senior level. So I'm maybe, I guess, trying to start it now where we might benefit in years to come at senior level.
And when you're having those conversations, is it more from your own playing days, your experiences from that, or has there been a process of kind of learning from other coaches, perhaps? Like, is it the player Damien Duff that you've learned from, or is it the coaches you played under?
Both. Like, I guess all the sessions I would deliver to the lads would be from what I've learned over the years with whatever Mourinho, Hodgson, Kenny Dalglish, Alan Irvine. I've took all their sessions and that's what I deliver. And yeah, the bit about me was, all I did was ball. Even lads now are mad on gym and lifting dumbbells and looking good. So I didn't lift a dumbbell till I was in my mid-20s. So, to me, listen, I know you have to do it, but an hour with a ball or an hour with a dumbbell, I think an hour with the ball is going to benefit a 15 more because, like I said, they don't do enough. So I just want them to be comfortable with the ball, and a lot of Irish players, even at senior level, it just looks like it's a battle to me. So I'm trying to put it right, I guess.
And in terms of, I know we mentioned your coaching development at the start of the section, but in terms of feedback about your own coaching, is there somebody kind of helping you through that at all to have conversations with you about how well you're doing as a coach? Like, I mean, is it just from your own feel about results and all that, that's how you're gauging your success at the moment? Or is there a process in place, maybe from the FAI or maybe below the FAI, to say that we can create and mould Damien Duff into the next top level coach?
Yeah, I guess when you go on your coaching badges, I'm doing one now, you get assessed and told whether you're doing things good or bad or indifferent. But, one thing I've learned, I guess, with the FAI is they're big on self-assessment. So, I'm not stupid. I've been around the block after a training session or after a game. Driving home, I'll assess what I done well, what I could do better, what I did bad, and, etc. So, FAI can help you with the badges, etc. But I just think the best learning is just going, taking your own team and making your own mistakes and just going from there. So, I just like to assess myself. I'm my biggest critic, and I always have been.
When you're having those kind of internal conversations when you're driving home, what are the themes that constantly pop up? What are you good at? What are you bad at?
I think my language could be a bit better with the kids. I get a bit colourful at times. I know they're only 15, but maybe get too emotional. But again, I don't know. It's when you're obsessed with something, it's hard to take the emotion out of it. So, so maybe just being a bit calmer. But like I said, if I was trying to be someone I'm not, maybe I'd be a different coach. So I'm, trying to be calmer on the touchline, but I can't be. I am who I am.
Mm-hmm. Just a final point there. You said a couple of moments ago that you don't have any interest in getting involved with the first team for the time being. Like when you look at the likes of Lampard and Gerrard going straight into relatively high-profile jobs straight away, do you look at your own situation and say, I'm very happy that I went through this route at the start to try and learn a bit more before making that step up? But that being said, you might not have any interest one day in making that step up. Who knows?
Yeah, listen, one day possibly, yeah. But I'm just taking baby steps at the minute. I just feel like I'm learning the game all over again. So fair play to Lamps and Stevie G, but it's totally different being on the touchline. When as a player you think you know it all, and then you step back and you're a coach and you realise you're just starting to learn all over again. So I'd rather learn all over again with 15-year-olds rather than with a first team and 40,000 people telling you what you're doing wrong. So I think the way I've done it is correct, and you can say there's no pressure on it, but I put all the pressure in the world on myself, even though it's an under 15 game. So that's the way I've decided to go, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, listen, very, very best of luck with the next stage in your development as a coach, Damien. Good to chat to you. Thanks a million for taking the call.
Cheers. God bless. Thank you very much.
Yeah, pretty strong stuff from Damien Duff on a bunch of things there, in particular the notion of Páirc Uí Chaoimh being open. You can read a bit more about that on offtheball.com. In the meantime, though, we should talk about the other thing about the egotistical 15-year-olds smelling themselves.
Good old use of local language there, which I hadn't been aware of. I mean, like, did you smell yourself when you were 15?
I mean, there would have been a lot of links.
There was a lot of links, not a lot of ego.
Like the bit about the egos is really interesting, right? Because he's obviously working. Rovers have pumped a huge amount of money into their underage structures, so they're working with some of the best players in the country, and they're going to increasingly work with the best players in the country, particularly at that age group, as the national leagues filter down the age profiles and the schoolboy clubs all become amalgamated into League of Ireland clubs. If that continues the way it's happening, like having somebody like Duffer involved at that level, injected into the training sessions, making sure that kids are playing with balls as opposed to the dumbbells for an hour, and having him go, I was pretty good at football, you're not that good, and if you want to not play, or if you want to have that ego here, off you go. I mean, that would be brilliant. Yeah, for sure. Like, we talk about having the belief as an Irish playing population that we're actually good enough to pass the ball around, but it's great to hear a coach with a bit of belief there, that Damien Duff clearly realises that he's got the ability to mould these players into great players, because he's seen there, he's played at the very, very top level, and that's really important. And I do wonder, like, how are coaches like Damien Duff being moulded? Like, how do you make the next great Irish manager? Is it purely from chance? Because that seems to be how a lot of things happen in management, where you mess up once and then you're viewed as a failure and that's it, or you get lucky because your first job was a success and then suddenly your reputation is sky high. Like, it's a reputation economy being a manager, and you'd wonder if there was like a little bit more could be done with some of the young coaches. It's obviously quite expensive in Ireland to get your coaching badges and all that sort of stuff. It's like 4 times more expensive than it is in the likes of Germany and Spain and or the North. That's why a lot of people go to Belfast to do it.
Yeah, so like more can be done there. It's hard to know from that conversation where like he's being guided to, but I think he's guiding himself along pretty well. I think he's learning a lot, and he's obviously very content with where he's at in his current coaching career. Yeah, and taking his time, I think, is the other thing. Right, a reminder, of course, OTBAM is live with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. Now, what a World Cup we certainly enjoyed it. Our next guest certainly enjoyed it too. It's time for the official John Duggan homecoming with a massive response to his World Cup diary. He's up next. Here are some of his best bits.
Good morning, guys. Dobro Utra from Russia. It's like any other global city in the world, lads. It's just the Bolshevik hat, and I'm putting it on right now. It's not like the Bourne Identity, folks. It's another global city like any other. I never thought I would wear this hat. I bought it when I bought the Ushanka. But given the day that's in it and what's happened here in the last 24 hours, I had to take out the hat and wear it today. So Yeah, it's just what a day! What a day for Russia.
Good afternoon yourself. Tell us about Ulyanovsk, John, because this is something that's come onto our radar today, and we're all very intrigued by this.
Yeah, it's a city kind of not too far from Kazan in Russia, and is where Lenin was born, of course, the revolutionary leader. And I've got contacts over here, and I've been offered the freedom of the city of Ulyanovsk.
How do you get the freedom of a city, a massive city with 600,000 people of a population? This is no little village, John. Like, how do you get approached? Do you make an inquiry?
I was just told the freedom has been offered.
By who?
By the mayoral office.
The mayor of the town?
Not the actual mayor. Don't be quizzing me. Don't be quizzing me like a primetime journalist. And it's not prime time. When the ceremony happens, you'll find out. We'll get all the information for you. We'll get you we'll show you the papers that'll be stamped and all the ceremonial scrolls and everything. So let's just chill out until it happens. Well, this is a very important building behind me, lads. It's the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. This was the residence of the monarchy in Russia. It was the capital of Russia, St. Petersburg, until the October Revolution in 1917, which happened here at the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. We nearly had 1 million people dying here in terms of civilians, starvation, huge issues, and including Vladimir Putin's baby brother was one person who died. So,
John, it just looked like Captain Jack Sparrow walked behind you.
I was making a serious point, so I don't actually know what's going on behind me.
We're joined live in the studio now by John Duggan. He's a writer from Ireland's daily sports show, Off the Ball. John, thanks for joining us in the studio today. It's your first time, obviously, in St. Petersburg, in Russia as well. What have your impressions so far been of the atmosphere of the country?
What a beautiful city. It reminds me a bit of Paris. Of course, France here tonight against Belgium in the semi-finals of the World Cup. And the World Cup, to me, is the greatest show on earth. That's what I've always felt since I've been watching it on television as a boy. And it's lived up to every expectation, and Russia have been excellent hosts.
That must be John Duggan's on the line. A very good morning to you, John.
Morning, Dave. How are you doing? I pulled out all the stops this morning, guys. This is a tube taker, which I think is a hat they have in Kazan here. We're now 448 miles east of Moscow, with the cool Sharif Mosque behind me.
John, this is our last time talking to you from Moscow here on OTBAM. So your final thoughts on, I guess, the trip of a lifetime?
Well, thank you for your support, and thank you for all the people who sent in kind comments over the month. I've had an amazing journey. And just final thoughts that I thought the host nation were, whatever about governments, I thought the people here were just fantastic hosts. And having seen 6 cities and having been to 17 games, it's not a Potemkin village. It's a country like any other. Ordinary people are like each other everywhere you go in the world. And I think what the World Cup brings is that beautiful meld of colour. Obviously, Qatar is a bit of an unknown, and the USA, 48 teams, and the Mexico and Canada are far places to go, and that's a long way into the future. I wish we were here as the Republic of Ireland. I wish we'd made it. And the best memories, the memories are just of attacking football. Great stories. The Argentina soap opera was an amazing story. Germany being knocked out. Brazil's failure when they were expected to succeed. France being the best team overall, I would say. And really exciting games from Spain, Portugal to Belgium, Japan. And then brilliant stories from Mexico to Croatia. So just a magical experience, one I'll never forget.
Yeah, wow. A reminder of happy times. How are you?
Jaron, good morning. I'm quite humbled by that package. So lucky and humbled, I would say.
The hats, let's talk hats. You brought this one. So
yeah, the first Ushanka I bought wasn't very, I would say, well manufactured, and the thing fell off it. This fell off it after about a day, and then I got an army cap, and I was doing a piece because you were doing pieces on mainly phones, and we see with Philip Bromwell and RT, and that the technology now that if you have good connectivity, you can do things on a phone. It looks like you've got a cameraman, but you can do doing stuff off a phone. So there was one period when I was just lying on the ground, and it's the only way I could get a good shot with, say, the Kremlin behind me. And I left the army cap to my right. And when I did the piece, because obviously you're looking at the camera, the army cap is gone.
Oh no!
So I bought this actually on the way home from the airport. So I had to get one of them because I couldn't not leave without a Ushanka, having been there for 37 days.
So the army cap is gone. Where do you get the? Do you just buy the army cap like they sell them?
Yeah, there's a place I went to called, if anybody's ever in Moscow, the Izmailovsky Market, where I was haggling with a guy who was offering them to me for about €5, and then when you go down to Red Square, they're about €100.
Right.
So there's a big difference. You need to shop around to get the good merchandise. But I still have
it looked like a proper army hat. Like, so you could just buy a Garda cap and walk around with the Garda cap on. I mean, it's a bit.
Yeah, it didn't really fit me either. So they put it on, but it didn't
Irish
really
heads are
fit.
notoriously big.
Yeah, and I bought this thing as well. They got the other thing with all the medals on. I got that at the airport as well. But yeah, look, that was all part of it. I mean, I don't think you can go to any country without trying to sample some of the souvenirs. So, including Mr. Putin here.
Who is it? Putin the whole way through, or is it a bunch
No,
of...
so you open up Putin, and then you get Yeltsin. This is like Make and Do, that RT2 series.
Owen's too young, he's no idea who Mary Fitzgerald is.
Then there's Gorbachev, and then you open Gorbachev and you get Stalin, and then you open Stalin and then you get Lenin.
All right.
So that's the dolls.
Stalin and then it fall over.
Yeah. Well, obviously communism's gone now, so yeah. There you go.
Just in shot there, it's perfect. I mean, Stockholm syndrome is a thing that kidnapped victims get. Do you feel like you have a bit of St. Petersburg syndrome, that you fell in love with that place in particular?
I just think it's a place that everybody should go to. Obviously visas, and you've got to get visas to travel to Russia, and it's probably a little bit of a pain, but I just think it's a beautiful place. It's very European, kind of Parisian boulevards, Italian architecture, lovely cafes, canals, and I found it a fascinating place. It's somewhere that, of all the places I was in, and I love walking around the likes of Nizhny Novgorod or Kaliningrad, which are closed cities, and kind of inhaling the history of them. But St. Petersburg would be the one place I'd like to go back to if I ever was lucky enough to get the chance to go back again. St.
Petersburg was the Russia Today interview happened in St. Petersburg, and
yes.
Also the Jack Sparrow incident happened in St. Petersburg, did it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to say that the Jack Sparrow incident wasn't my fault.
I was actually
probably
for the first and only time I was annoyed because I was trying to make a point about people dying in Leningrad in World War II.
It was Tommy in my ear saying, "There's people behind them. Talk about the people behind them."
And yeah, so that was
perils of live TV, folks.
Yeah. So that was the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, where just when you think about the history there, that's where the Romanovs, had a residence. That's where the October Revolution happened, and it's right in the middle of St. Petersburg, and there's just nowhere, it's all completely bare and open. There's no park benches, there's nowhere to sit. It's just a completely open square, maybe like the front square of Trinity College. That's what it looked like. So, but I was just blown away by St. Petersburg, the architecture, the palaces, and actually probably had the most disappointing atmosphere for a game, France and Belgium. So I'll miss the South Americans. They were great fun all through the tournament. The South American fans were just brilliant.
Is St. Petersburg very touristy? Like there were people dressed up in costume like front square, and does it have the feel of a place that is getting a throughput of tourists?
Yes, although a lot of the tourists that go to Russia are from China. And from Asia, rather than Europe. But of all the cities in Russia, I would think it would be the one that would have the most, tourists. So Moscow, everything is very much in a central part of Moscow. So the Red Square, the Kremlin, the Bolshoi, that church I was outside, the Christ the Saviour church.
When they rebuilt.
They're all around the same area. But once you're out of that area in Moscow, apart from the beautiful metro, there's not much to see.
Yeah. Is Moscow huge? I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, Moscow's very big, and there's over 12 million people.
Okay.
But as I said in some of my later diaries, once the fans started leaving the city, the colour started to seep out of the city a little bit.
Yeah.
And I suppose I felt so, my mind was kind of moved by, I was expecting an unsafe place. I was expecting to be possibly really worried about my belongings. I was expecting a grimness to Moscow. So I was actually happy to see so much police early on in the World Cup that I knew that nothing's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
When you're walking around with your life on you, your money, your passes, your passport, because you have to bring your passport around in case it's checked. But the more I kind of went on, the more I kind of got a little bit uncomfortable with the amount of police that were in Moscow. And even the last couple of days, there's police everywhere, and you're thinking, is this really necessary? And if I'm walking around here in February on my own, is it really necessary? You know, so that is one thing that actually my mindset changed a little bit on it.
I guess
as things went on.
It's because of terrorism, really. Like any of these major sports events, they're now paranoid about any potential terrorism and making sure that they can be responsive pretty quick.
Oh, but speaking to people, is it like this throughout the year? And they said it is like this.
Oh, okay.
Throughout the year. So that to me is a little bit of a control mechanism, which I felt was, would I want to live in Ireland with it like that? Probably not. But on the other hand, I felt extremely safe. And I felt that this would go off extremely well. But also, I think it has to go off well. I don't think any country or city can host a massive sporting event without it going off well. I think that's part of the deal when you sign up for it. So even Qatar, I don't know what we can expect there. Even Qatar will probably go off well.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's the perfect time of the year for Qatar. It might not be the perfect time of the year for the football tournament. It's a small geographical area. The stadiums will all be state of the art. Like, you need to, if we're talking about whether or not the functional running of the tournament, it's going to be perfect. Like, it will be perfect. Everything will run on time. How they got to the point of building that perfection on the backs of slaves and really questionable human rights and all the horrible things that have happened, like, that will somehow, they'll draw a curtain around that. You suspect by the time that comes around that those stories will disappear.
But just as much as the stories in Russia disappeared. Like, they announced early in the World Cup, they announced that they're raising the pension age in Russia. And it was just, by the way, we're doing that.
Yeah.
And protests are not allowed until after the tournament ends. So it was a shiny object as a country. And there are obviously issues in Russia. But I suppose what I was trying to convey when I was over there to everybody, first of all, what's it like? What does this place look like? And secondly, I wanted to convey, because I really do believe this, and this is not a naive thing to say, is that ordinary people everywhere you go are the same. And politics is politics, and you can separate politics from people. You know, we've had issues in this country. We've had issues with the, clerical abuse scandals, for example. You know, the UK and the United States have had issues with the Iraq War. So I think that you can often separate the politics and the people, and that's what I was trying to convey, that Russian people are just like anybody else. And it was like people in Russia treated almost all of the 1.3 or 4 million people that travelled as hotel guests, is the way I would describe it, and that's the experience I definitely received. And I was just like trying to chronicle the moments last night from just walking through like a place like Nizhny Novgorod at night, on a Saturday night, just walking through it and inhaling what's going on, and all the fans that have been there from various different countries, some of whom would have hung on. I think like Argentina fans hanging around, Panama fans arriving for the next day's game against England, or to look at a place like Kaliningrad, which still has probably a lot of poverty and a lot of residue of the fact that it was a closed city and a bit of a square peg in a round hole geographically, because it was a Prussian-German city for hundreds of years. To see a place like Kazan, which is modern and upperly mobile, and then just as I've always, if anybody's followed, it's that amazing euphoria that I saw after Russia beat Spain, which is certainly the highlight I would have had of the World Cup. But when I reflect on the World Cup, one thing I have to say is the refereeing at the World Cup was very good. There was 4 red cards. In 2006, there's 28 red cards. And I think Kalina and the refereeing committee deserve a lot of credit for giving us a free-flowing World Cup with a lot of excitement.
What were VAR moments like in the stadium?
They were a little bit confusing, to be honest. The final was just madness. Just to see that in a final, the delay and the drama. We all knew what had happened. We all knew there was a dispute over a penalty kick.
Do they show the replays on the big screen?
No. They do this kind of package about half an hour before the game starts, where this is VAR and these are the things that VAR can be brought in for. But they didn't show replays really at all. They showed them obviously for the press. But everybody knew what was going on. Everybody knew there was a dispute, and then we see him running then to get to the...
That's a bit mad, isn't it? Not showing the replay.
Yeah. and then they, you just know that drama. It's almost like an interruption in a World Cup final to make a huge decision over a penalty.
At least it keeps the fans out of it, not showing the replay. It doesn't allow the referee to be influenced by boos or jeers or anything like that from a crowd who feel they've been screwed over. At least you can look at it in the cold light of day.
So it was you're freezing time is what you're doing in a World Cup final for a major decision, which the Croatian players definitely felt turned the flow of the game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was the right decision still.
I think it's such a 50-50 decision, as we discussed before. Referees themselves can't even agree on it.
And they need to define that a bit more. It is up for discussion with the International Football Association Board or whatever that rule-making body is. That it's been on their agenda for the last 2 meetings and they haven't quite got to some kind of consolidated viewpoint about what the rule is, so there will always be that wiggle room until they actually manage to do that. A couple of quick texts from, tweets from people watching this morning. John Duggan, the Michael Palin of #OTBAM legend. I mean, Michael Palin's not a bad cultural icon to be.
No, I mean, I don't know. I get 80 days around the world, do I? Yeah, I know that's a lovely thing to say.
Kyle Muckian, what was John's favourite city out of the 6 in Russia?
St. Petersburg, clearly, but. There's definitely some great moments. It's just, I think it's when you enter a World Cup stadium and you see Messi or Neymar or Mbappe, even warming up, you get that sense that this is the show, this is the deal, and you get a feeling that you rarely get in sports. You get it at maybe Twickenham. As we saw this year, you get it All-Ireland hurling final, you get it All-Ireland football final. I remember last year, the All-Ireland football final, the planes going overhead Croke Park, and you're feeling, whoa, this is a real big deal. And that's why I think the GAA is great with the parades, that you have that kind of shiver down the spine. And I think that the way I would describe the World Cup, and for anybody, if you can try and go, and obviously I was privileged to go as somebody who's working at it, the way I kind of felt, like I played blackjack for quite a while in my 20s, and it's like, going to a World Cup is like you're getting dealt a blackjack every day, every single hand. You're getting dealt a blackjack, and you're just overwhelmed by the madness and the beauty of it. So, as Damien Duff was talking about underage soccer and developing young players, it's we have to try and qualify for these tournaments. We have to try and be at the show.
We're missing out.
Being at the show and being part of the journey, and I think that being a supporter is a huge part of our identity, because we create that identity in our own colour and in our own opinions and in our own view on things that nobody else can own. And when we own that, if you're a fan of, say, Galway or Clare or Limerick or Cork this weekend, you're going to own that. You're going to go to the game. You're going to have your opinions. You're going to have your couple of pints with the lads or the ladies, and you're going to then consume as much media as you can, and then you'll get your view on everything. And I think that what the World Cup can do is implant memories into somebody that'll never leave them. And I'm sure there are people out there. I was speaking to a guy actually just before I went to the World Cup who was 18 in 1990, and he went to Ireland, Italy for the World Cup quarter-final. And I said, "Do you still have the ticket?" "Yeah, it's my mum's house, and it's this and it's that." And he hasn't left him. And I think that's what international football brings, is that kind of purity and that sense of belonging and that sense of colour. It's a tsunami of colour that I don't think really can be matched or equalled. I don't think it'll be equalled in rugby. Rugby will be a different thing for us next year, because we're expecting possibly to win the thing. The Olympics is something that you watch through your television screen and you cheer on the O'Donovans or Annalise Murphy, but it's kind of at a remote level, and it's also fragmented. Whereas the World Cup is something that is a journey. And for all those Peruvians, thinking of those Peruvians that mortgage their lives to get over to Russia, and will they think it's worth it?
Yeah.
It'll probably be painful for the next year or two, but it'll definitely be worth it after 36 years not at a World Cup. And you even think of Australians. I saw very few Australians because they were out of the thing before it even really began. But I think Australians were there, Saudi Arabians were there, Peruvians were there, and even all the countries that weren't there, United States, Italy and Holland. So
do you think the expansion of the World Cup then is a positive?
It's a positive and a negative. It's a positive in terms of what I'm talking about with belonging, but it's a negative because you're going to have a lot of England, Panama style results, and you're not going to have it start until it starts. And it to me, I see a negative in it, and because what I liked about Russia was, even though there was travel involved, a lot of because Moscow had 2 stadiums, a lot of the you know, the congestion of colour was around the one place. And Moscow and St. Petersburg are not too far from each other, not Moscow and Nizhny Novgorod not too far from each other. Mexico to Canada to the United States, it just seems a bit too vast, and it doesn't seem as, whereas I think of a Germany World Cup or a France World Cup or an England World Cup, which hopefully we'll have sooner rather than later.
Or maybe, as Sepp Blatter says, an England and Ireland World Cup.
Yeah. Well, we have the...
Hey, Sepp, we you know.
We have
think you got a raw deal there, Sepp?
We have Croke Park, we've got the Aviva Stadium, two great stadiums. Porky Queeve, don't mention the war. But yeah, there are some of the reflections on a lifetime experience.
You a bunch of moments. You want to give us 3 or 4?
Well, the Russia-Spain I talked about, that was, I think, the best game I saw. I saw 44 goals, but I didn't see any of the good goals. I didn't see Pavard. I didn't see Ronaldo's goal. They were in different places. Brazil-Belgium was probably the best game I saw, the most dramatic match I saw. Russia-Spain I've touched upon. And it's, as somebody described to me, the cinema verite of just holding up a selfie stick and capturing what you're seeing, and then 4 hours later coming out of watching Croatia, Denmark, and it's still going on to the same level where every single car, people are just hanging out of cars, beeping their horns, and just going mad in Moscow, and to the extent where the police were going round with a loudspeaker in these armoured trucks telling people to calm down.
Right.
That was pretty mad.
And everybody obeys the guys in the armoured trucks.
Well, there was a viral going around of people jumping on police cars and being hit by truncheons, and they said it was England fans. It was actually Russian fans after the Russia-Spain game. The final itself, we'd be lucky enough to have the final, and just seeing kind of things like the Putin umbrella and that kind of thing, or Rafa Varane walk by me in the mix zone with the trophy, fireworks going off over the Luzhniki Stadium. You know, just hanging around with fans, like Poland and Senegal fans, and like Poland and Senegal don't play football matches against each other. No. And to see them taking photos with each other was just beautiful, I thought, and what football should be. And what I also like, I'm just kind of thinking about this kind of culture of football, especially in club football, which is a bit of a we hate culture. We hate you. We got to be put into pens and buses. The police have to be there and escort us to an area. I remember going to a League Cup final a couple of years ago, Chelsea-Tottenham, and nobody knew where anywhere was at Wembley to get in. So Chelsea and Tottenham fans are walking past each other with their bags, their little carrier bags of merchandise, looking which gate to get in. And once they get into the gate, they hate each other. Yeah. To me, thankfully, I think that is seeping out of football. I think the England fans were very well behaved, and a majority of them would be anyway. But there's no reason, having been to a Champions League final where Dortmund and Munich fans took the tube to Wembley, why we can't. I think society is moving to a better place with that football fans can't integrate and mingle. And I think that's one thing I definitely saw. Never felt, and obviously the police thing is a positive in that, but I never felt an undercurrent for 1 second of the World Cup of there being any trouble whatsoever. Yeah. Which is another positive. But penalty shootouts are great at these things. England-Colombia was great, and just good stories, and ultimately the best team in France won it. Yeah. And I think, like, when you think about, nobody's going to ask the question of Kylian Mbappe for the next decade. Oh, well, are you the best player now not to win a World Cup? And that's scary for a 19-year-old to be going into that. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. People talking to me saying that it's the best World Cup that they remember. People remembering back all the way to '82. It's definitely right there. And I think, once again, the refereeing has got a lot to do with that, and allowing the games to flow. Like Ronaldo, Suarez, I remember in the Portugal-Uruguay game, trying to gain an edge through play acting, and the referee just let him just get on with it. Yeah. And that is a huge thing. I think back in '86 there was only eight red cards, and then generally they're the best World Cups. I mean, '86 was a very exciting World Cup, but I think it's where you are as a person. I was a 7-year-old lad watching it on television, and this is a very exotic thing beaming through my screen. But I went to Germany as a fan in 2006 and got a ticket off a tout. So. I really hope the Republic of Ireland qualify for these things, because everybody should be able to get to that carnival and have the anticipation and the journey of it. Yeah, so I think we should do whatever it takes to get to the next World Cup. Yeah. We really need to qualify.
Something ominous about that, Ger.
We can start that journey now.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. Making sure that Damien Duff and all of his colleagues from that group are involved with the under-15s, and because they'll be Kylian Mbappe's age time the next World Cup comes.
Yeah, true. Good squad members.
John, great stuff. Congratulations.
Thanks, Ger. No, thank you.
The Irish women's hockey team caused a shock in their first game of the World Cup against the USA on Saturday, beating them 3-1. The next game is Thursday evening against India. 3 of the team spoke to Cliona Foley of Off the Bench for us last week. That's available right now over at youtube.com/offtheball. Here's Roisin Upton on dealing with her hip injuries.
One of the reasons I understand is they wanted to bring you into the Irish team much younger, but you had injuries. Did you have surgeries at some stage?
I did, yeah. I missed out on getting my first cap a couple of times. I was very fortunate, actually, that the head coach before, Graham, who's our current head coach, kept in touch while I was in the States and kept me in the loop. So that was fantastic. So he had brought me into a couple of camps when I was home during the summer, and I missed out on getting it, I think, the December before the August, say, before I eventually got it, and then the following January for a trip in Spain, and I thought it would never come.
Really? Oh, that must have been frustrating.
It was, yeah. So I ended up having to get double hip surgery, so that's what held me back.
Both of them, or 2 and 1?
Both hips, yeah, a month apart.
And is it particular to hockey, or do you just think it was your physiology?
It seems to be a new enough surgery in the past 10 or 15 years or so, and they
loads
say
of GAA players, male GAA players are having hip surgeries.
Yeah, so it's a similar one. They say that it could just be down to the positioning of being in that hockey squatted position.
Yeah, you are bent over, yeah, permanently.
But it might also be kind of sort of genetically.
Yeah, it could be physiological.
So,
and when was the last time? When was the last one?
2016.
Right.
February and March. Yeah, they had told me if I didn't get it, it was likely that I would need a hip replacement later on. So when you say that to someone, yeah.
Oh, you're only you're only 24 now. So like you were hearing that at 21 or 22.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
It was. I suppose it kind of went over my head a bit, you know, when you're like, just get it done and then I'll be back.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't really anticipate. I had many like injuries before, like all of us. I suppose I have a screw in my foot. I've had pins in my thumbs, you know, broken.
Don't follow her through the airport X-ray.
Don't worry, we don't beep. Tried and tested.
Right. That sounds like a list of very painful injuries. So that's the Irish women's hockey team pulling up trees, as they say. A 3-1 win against the USA at the weekend, and that next game will be on Thursday evening. Now,
England on Sunday.
England on Sunday, sorry. That was the third game, yeah.
Yeah, it's the third game. If they beat India, that's going to be teed up beautifully. Like England, of course, gold medalists from Rio, if I remember correctly.
India, traditionally a powerhouse. Would have been GB winning, is the England...
True, sorry, good point. Would
it be, are there many Scots/Welsh on the team, I wonder, I don't know?
Yeah, very good point. Still, it's going to be class, but India, as you say, traditional powerhouse this Thursday, definitely one worth watching. It's great, it's great to have this sort of injection of energy around the team all of a sudden, because Cliona obviously had the forethought to actually do that piece of them last week, and then lo and behold, they're kind of the talk of the country over the last 48 to 72 hours.
So there's a breaking story coming from New Zealand where 3 rugby players have been suspended for doping offences. It appears as if they've been ordering drugs from a website called clenbuterol.something.something, .co.nz, I think it is, which would suggest they're buying clenbuterol.
Not for their cows on the farm, I suspect.
I hope not. New Zealand beef is an important global export.
Well, that's how the Mexican beef gets so good, isn't it?
Apparently so, yeah, and that's why...
It's happened to Canelo.
Yeah. So it was clenbuterol that was being used to aid weight loss in the off-season. The Judicial Committee found that one of the individuals, they accepted the submission that he'd taken the banned substance to aid off-season weight loss, and the violations were not intentional. Which is completely stupid.
To take a prohibited substance to lose weight, with the knowledge, I presume, that the substance is prohibited.
Irrespective, but I presume, yes. It's on a website called clenbuterol, which, you know, no one thinks is legal. And how can you accept it's not intentional? The whole point of taking the thing is to lose the weight. That's to enhance your performance. Anyway, so that's rugby in New Zealand with a bunch of people testing positive for taking clenbuterol.
Yeah, the whole I didn't know what it was defence is obviously impossible at this point, given the name of the website there. It's remarkable, actually, that those people selling clenbuterol would call their website clenbuterol.co.nz, despite the fact, of course, that it would be quite convenient for people to actually search it. But ultimately, if you're selling clenbuterol, you want to keep the covert nature of it, don't you? You don't want to leave it above the counter. As in, more people will buy it off you if they think they can get away without getting caught, or they can get away without, you know, actually accessing a website with the name of the prohibited substance in the URL.
Yeah.
So, you know, like the clenbuterol vendors of New Zealand need to up their game, is what I'm saying.
Maybe there's a business opportunity for us here.
And who knows, maybe it's that the .co.nz domain was bought by somebody outside of New Zealand.
Well, wouldn't that just be the type of sneaky thing that drug dealers would do?
But also, it's also stupid marketing. I'm sure there isn't a market for that sort of stuff in New Zealand whatsoever. Why would you buy that domain?
It just adds to the creeping sense that rugby's filthy.
Yeah, it does. It really does. The creeping sense that there's like an acceptance there, that you look at that excuse and it's not what's being said, but it's the sort of tone that's coming across there, the perhaps genuine sense that I've done nothing wrong here, that, you know, I'm being unfairly treated because, sure, my mate and my 98 other mates have also gone on and gone online, and they think it's fine as well. You know, surely not 100 of us could be this stupid.
That side appears to be down now, but apparently loads of people were buying stuff off it in 2017 and have now been caught. So maybe it's just a really brilliant anti-doping ruse. Let's go and set up this website. We managed to catch some. Of course, it would only
used. I mean,
the latest time.
At the latest time, like you can watch some coverage of some sports, and the general conversation is, well, there is fast twitch muscles at work here, there is a natural talent here that you don't get. It's testament to some of the other elements in the squad, or maybe it's testament to the rest of the championship.
Of the championship. Yeah, okay, that was.
It's like two glaring flaws, like two absolute whoppers. Three if you count both days of Andy Moran last year, to actually be part of a team that might be in the last 4 and 2 consecutive years. It's remarkable.
Well, I mean, last year the system was set up for teams to come to the door and win fairly handy.
True.
It did happen in the semi-final last year as opposed to, you know, before that.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fair point.
DB also had a say on the last act of Kieran Donaghy last Sunday.
104 seconds left in his career yesterday.
Donaghy.
I'm telling you now. It was, and it wasn't just getting a hand to a ball.
No.
It was getting himself into position, getting himself up, and he knew where Clifford was coming.
He was so composed. You watch it back again in the replay, and there's 2 or 3 around him. He is the one with his eyes most on the ball. Everyone else is vaguely aware where the ball is and they know it's coming in, but they're kind of half watching him. He is just eyes on the ball and nothing else.
He knew he had to, and he didn't even get a hand. He had to. His hand went laterally, and he had to push it out to the side to Clifford.
Did you see the photo from behind the goal of the Clifford finish today? Have you seen that on Twitter?
Yeah.
There's no room.
There's no room.
Yeah.
And you're going, look at it was an unbelievable finish, and it was like what we've seen from Rory Beggan. I've seen the unbelievable in some of his, like that kick out.
77 metres.
77 metres.
Mbappe ran against Argentina for 77 metres. Rory Beggan just booted at 77 metres.
Yeah, first of all, there's no question that Rory Beggan is the best goalkeeper in the country, just on the back of that clip. But the other thing I just made to mention there a moment ago, great stat from Sylvester Hennessy on Terrace Talk and Radio Kerry last night, that Kerry haven't beaten a Division 1 team in the Championship in almost 3 years. Tyrone in the All-Ireland semi-final in 2015 was the last Division 1 team they've beaten. So we talk about the perceived weakness of the Championship just a moment ago. Well, that says it all.
What does it say?
It says that this team hasn't been in the division. It hasn't been a good team. They haven't been a good team in 3 years.
It's not a weak championship. It's just, I mean, how many Division 1 teams have they played?
The championship that is set up in the favour of teams from certain provinces.
Yeah. So, Kerry, for example.
Exactly, and that's what I mean, that the weaknesses, 2 glaring weaknesses, have got exposed in horrendous fashion in 2 consecutive years, and still they're All-Ireland semi-finalists, and I know that's only potentially this year.
All right, tonight on Off the Ball, Jackie Tyrrell is in studio. That's a conversation that you can hear tonight from 7 o'clock with Joe. Tomorrow morning on OTBAM, Tommy Walsh is going to join us ahead of the All-Ireland hurling semi-finals. Alan Cullen has commented, I'm the only one that thinks the Galway Monaghan game will be a draw. I can see them going at each other, and if it is tight going into the last 10 minutes, there'll be a nod and wink, and they'll settle for a draw and they'll stitch Kerry up. Now, do Monaghan really want to play Dublin in an All-Ireland semi-final? Or would they much rather take their risk, take their chances against Tyrone in Croker or Donegal in Croker, both of whom they can feel justifiably in Tyrone's case, they owe Tyrone big time for everything, all the way back to Sean Kavanagh's black card tackle to every other time that they've ever played them in Croker.
The lack of an All-Ireland semi-final goes back 30 years, though. That is the most important thing from a Monaghan perspective. Survive and advance. That's all they're thinking.
Can't be playing Dublin. They've got to beat Galway. They've got to go for it.
Is there not a sense that this Monaghan team have come on to the point where they might not get hockeyed by Dublin? Granted, it's only a 1-year turnaround from what happened last year, but I think they've made enough strides, and surely Malachy O'Rourke this time can't get it. Not that he got it badly wrong the last time, they were just completely outclassed in every department by Dublin, but one of those departments was on the sideline, and like, he's learned from that. He's a shrewd man. He's come on a lot as a manager, you'd suspect, as a result of that defeat last year. Not that they won't be massive outsiders against Dublin, but I just think the idea that they can be picky and choosy about who they play in the All-Ireland semi-final, I don't think that's an idea. I don't think that's a runner at all. It's survival. That's all Monaghan want.
Try and win the game, though, no?
Well, they'll try and win the game, but as that commentator rightly predicts, like, if I'm standing in the terrace in Killarney in a few weeks and I see that there's a 1 or 2 point difference in it coming down to the 60th minute, then I'm saying Kerry's championship is done.
But you were saying that at half time when you said they were going to get beaten 8 points.
Yeah.
We have the WhatsApps going, oh, it's going to be 8 points.
You clearly weren't listening to me. I literally said it on the show yesterday that
I know.
thought Kerry were going to be beaten by 8 points. So you don't need to drag out WhatsApp messages to...
I just want to make sure there's evidence of it, you know.
Well, there's evidence. You can literally play the audio back or the video back.
Well, then we have to trust you. Well, at least now we have the evidence. Okay, on that note. So you don't think Kerry are going to make the All-Ireland semi-final? You're catastrophising.
I'll know 55 minutes into Saturday week.
All right, that's our lot for today. Thanks very much for being part of the show. If you want to get in touch, the best way to do it is just to subscribe to the Twitter feed for this show at Off the Ball AM, or of course you can leave comments, youtube.com/Off the Ball. All our good stuff goes up there every day. Sometimes it's slightly longer versions of the stuff that we play out in the show. Sometimes it's stuff that doesn't even make the show. So make sure you get onto YouTube, hit subscribe, and of course check out all the good stuff on offtheball.com as well. We're back tomorrow morning at 7:45. Good luck.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.